What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 11:48 a.m. Eastern Time here in the United States. So, the Israeli government has approved a hostage deal with Hamas, which will include a 4-day pause in military operations in the Gaza Strip and the release of 50 Israeli hostages in return for 150 Palestinians held in Israeli jails. And the agreement is going to start tomorrow. And apparently, it was reached after weeks of talks brokered by the US and Qatar. It'll also allow for humanitarian aid and fuel to enter the Gaza Strip, and I'm hearing that as many as 300 trucks of humanitarian aid are going to go into the Gaza Strip. The hostages, families, or others have up to 24 hours to appeal the decision to the Israeli Supreme Court if they want to object the hostage deal. And then Israel will continue its military operations in Gaza after the pause is over. So basically, through Thanksgiving and through this weekend, there's not going to be any fighting in the Gaza Strip. Israel's going to get 50 hostages. Hamas is going to get 150 Palestinians that are in Israeli jails, and 300 trucks of humanitarian aid going into Gaza. And Israel will continue after the deal is over. So this is pretty huge news, but I wouldn't really, get too excited that this is going to somehow end the war and there's going to be peace on earth. Okay, this is just a very, very short pause in the fighting, and it's only being done to release the hostages. Okay, Israel has no plans in stopping their military operation. And from what they were saying is that they're going to start to focus on the southern part of Gaza soon, because they believe that a lot of the Hamas leaders have fled into southern Gaza. Okay. So this is just a short pause, but we're still seeing a lot of escalation in the region. Last night, the U.S. launched airstrikes on 2 sites in Iraq, and this was in response to 2 short-range ballistic missiles that were fired at U.S. troops, and 8 U.S. troops were injured. And apparently, one of these missiles, or both of them, made a direct hit on a U.S. base. Okay, and they hit that base last night, and that was after the U.S. used an AC-130 gunship to take out some kind of vehicle that was attacking U.S. forces. So then the U.S. decided to up the response, and they struck 2 sites with fighter jets. And this was the Iraqi Hezbollah group. Okay, so they're separate from the Hezbollah in Lebanon. All right, so the Iraqi Hezbollah group was targeted. This is the 4th round of American retaliatory airstrikes, okay? And this is the first time that these groups have used short-range ballistic missiles against our forces, okay? They're literally using ballistic missiles against our troops. That's pretty serious. And apparently, since October 17th, this would be over 67 times that U.S. forces have been attacked. And I think the number is 2 to 3 times higher than that. And if you watch my video from last night, I shared some footage of gunfire in Baghdad. Okay. You could hear gunfire in the background, sounded like firefights going on. It seems to me like there's a full-blown war going on in Iraq right now, Iraq and Syria, between U.S. forces and all these different jihadist groups. We're just not hearing much about it, okay? We're just getting the tip of the iceberg. And the Iraqi Hezbollah put out a statement saying that they're going to expand their strikes on U.S. bases, and that the most recent strike by the U.S. would not go unpunished. So let me read to you what the official U.S. military statement is regarding this situation. So they said on the morning of November 22nd in Iraq, U.S. Central Command forces conducted discrete precision strikes against two facilities in Iraq. The strikes were in direct response to the attacks against U.S. and coalition forces by Iran and Iran-backed groups, including one in Iraq on November 21st, which involved use of close-range ballistic missiles. Okay, so this is coming right out of Central Command. Okay, this is an official U.S. military statement saying that this was a response to the attacks against U.S. and coalition forces by Iran and Iran-backed groups. It's interesting that they mention Iran in addition to Iran-backed groups. This is very concerning, guys. Okay, it's escalating. These attacks on U.S. bases are getting worse and worse. They're starting to use short-range ballistic missiles. We're starting to strike them more and more. It's only going to get worse and worse, guys. Okay, the situation is just continuing to escalate. And apparently, this morning, after these two airstrikes, the U.S. military base Al Harir in Erbil in northern Iraq was targeted by drones. So that's pretty crazy, guys. So these militants backed by Iran are not slowing down. And apparently, Israel launched airstrikes in Syria last night, targeting the Rihanna Hotel inside the Saida Zainab area south of Damascus. The hotel contains large numbers of Iranian and Hezbollah militias. Iran recently said if their troops were attacked by Israel inside of Syria, the reactions would be severe. So this is huge news, guys. Israel launching another airstrike in southern Damascus, targeting a hotel that had a bunch of Iranian and Hezbollah militants. Okay, and this is after Iran threatened Israel with a severe reaction if they targeted Iranian forces in Syria. Here we have a map showing the latest situation in the Gaza Strip. You can see Israeli forces have basically totally surrounded Gaza City, but there's still a huge chunk of Gaza City that has not been occupied yet by Israeli forces. So they're going to have to go through this area here and clear it all out. And then they have all those tunnels to deal with. So this is going to be an ongoing war for some time, but they're making fast progress. Although so far they've basically captured the low-hanging fruit, these unpopulated areas here on the outskirts and along the ocean, okay, along the Mediterranean Sea. But they still have to get in here and take this whole section, which is going to take some time. They're going to have to go slow. And here we have footage of that strike launched by Israel on that hotel in Syria with the Iranian and Hezbollah militants inside. And apparently several Hezbollah targets in Lebanon were struck by Israeli fighter jets today. And Hezbollah said that it struck Israeli soldiers and vehicles in northern Israel, achieving direct hits. So the situation between Lebanon and Israel is continuing to escalate. And this update is being sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, I have a special deal for you that My Patriot Supply hooked me up with, and it's a 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply and their 2-week emergency food supply. So to get the deal, you have to use the link in the description below this video, which is preparewith NYPrepper.com, and you'll get 25% off the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply and 2-week emergency food supply. Now, these food supplies are freeze dried, so they have a 25-year shelf life if stored in the proper conditions. They come in rugged, water-resistant buckets. The 3-month emergency food supply comes in 6 water-resistant buckets, so they don't take up a lot of room. And you have 3 months worth of food, which should cover you for almost any scenario. There's a variety of different food in this 3-month supply and also in the 2-week supply. So you're going to get a good variety, and it's also healthy, and there's no MSG. So get prepared, guys. We're living in unprecedented times. World War III could happen at any moment. And the 2-week emergency food supply is also great for people that like to go camping. You can get one of these buckets and throw it in your vehicle. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get 25% off of the 2-week and the 3-month emergency food supply from My Patriot Supply, 25-year shelf life. They also have a general store. If you click on their logo here, it'll take you to their general store, which has all kinds of prepping and survival items. So check them out, guys. I'll leave a link in the description below this video. And the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs delivered a warning to the UN Security Council officially from the government of Israel, which states that if the United Nations interim force in Lebanon is not able to get the situation in southern Lebanon back under control and remove the military capabilities of Hezbollah from the border with Israel following the resolution 1701, which ended the Lebanon War of 2006, then the Israeli Defense Forces will be forced to take military action. So that is huge news, guys, okay? If you're not aware of what all that means, there was a war in 2006 between Israel and Lebanon. And at the end of the war, there was a UN resolution, and basically UN peacekeepers were deployed to southern Lebanon, and their duty is to prevent Hezbollah from attacking Israel. Okay, they're supposed to stop Hezbollah from building up their forces in that area, and so far this UN peacekeeping force has failed. Okay, and so Israel is basically giving them one last chance, and if they don't do it, then they're going to do it themselves. Israel's going to be forced to do it themselves, okay? And I don't think the UN is going to do anything. They just don't have the capability. So it looks like Israel is getting ready to go into southern Lebanon and make a substantial attack on Hezbollah, okay? They're going to probably do the same thing they did to Hamas. They're going to do the same thing to Hezbollah. Once they're done with the Gaza Strip, they're going to move to Lebanon, okay? And we heard the Israeli defense minister say 2 weeks ago that what they did to Gaza City, they can easily do to Beirut, okay? So get prepared, guys, okay? If Israel goes into Lebanon, that's going to really escalate things even more. And the Iranian foreign minister, Abdullahian, is going to Lebanon today for meetings with Hezbollah officials. And Iran recently tested a hypersonic missile of some kind. And the Yemen Navy is warning all ships passing through the Red Sea not to sail near Israeli ships or to turn off their identification devices. And here we have a video coming from the Yemen government. Here's the commander of the Yemen Navy, and he made a visit to the hijacked Israeli cargo ship. And let me just play this for you so you can watch. So this is an Israeli cargo ship operated by a Japanese company. This is just crazy, guys. Over 50 crew members from various countries on board this ship being held by the Yemen military, okay? This is very serious. And The president of Turkey, Erdogan, said he may travel to Egypt soon. And the Saudi foreign minister said the war must be stopped immediately, the ceasefire must be established, the siege on Gaza must be lifted, and prisoners and hostages must be released. Israel's continued violation of international law weakens the legitimacy of this law and fuels violence and extremism. We call on countries around the world to stop exporting weapons to Israel. So this is the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia saying this, okay? Saudi Arabia is an American ally, and they were pretty good allies with Israel, but now it doesn't look like they're allies at all. It seems like they're teaming up with Iran and all these other countries, and they all went to China over the weekend, and they went to Russia. All the foreign ministers, they went to China, then they went to Russia. So they're trying to make some kind of an agreement behind the scenes on how they're going to deal with this situation. And they're all teaming up together against Israel and America. And the leader of Palestine, President Abbas, says that he wants the U.S. president to intervene to stop the war in Gaza. And we have Finland suspecting that Russia is jamming GPS signals in the northern part of Finland, which has caused some weather balloons to malfunction. So that's pretty interesting because that's the same region where Finland has been putting up barriers, okay, like concertina wire to prevent migrants from coming in. And Russia said today that a humanitarian emergency was unfolding at one of its checkpoints on the Arctic border with Finland, where it said hundreds of migrants were stranded in freezing temperatures. More than 500 asylum seekers have crossed from Russia to Finland since November, Finnish public broadcaster YLE says, mostly from Somalia, Syria, Yemen, and Iraq. Helsinki accused Moscow of pushing them there deliberately, which Russia denies. There is a situation at the border with Finland at the Salla checkpoint, which can be described as a humanitarian crisis. The head of Russia's Murmansk region bordering Finland, Andrei Chibis, said about 300 people from more than 10 foreign countries have been waiting for days to cross the border. So they're doing the same thing they did to Poland 2 years ago. They tried to send all these migrants through Belarus, and Poland had to build a border fence, and they had to deploy their military because there were like thousands and thousands of these migrants trying to force their way into Poland. And now they're trying to do the same thing in Finland. So this is a dirty trick that Putin is resorting to. And, shame on Putin for putting all those migrants there in Arctic conditions, forcing them to go up there to try to get through the Finnish border and, making them freeze and all that. It's absolutely crazy. Japanese troops started doing drills on an island seen as vulnerable to China at a time when tensions with China, Russia, and North Korea are at an all-time high. Japan on November 19th conducted a drill on an island beach at the edge of the East China Sea. The exercise simulated an attack to drive out invaders from territory that Japan fears China may strike. And here we have some footage of U.S. and Philippine Air Forces conducting joint patrols over the South China Sea near northern Luzon, close to Taiwan. All right, so you have U.S. and Philippine fighter jets here, and it looks like some kind of C-130 here. Not sure what the C-130 is doing, but you can see the back of it is opened. So tensions are escalating in the Asia-Pacific region, and North Korea's state media said the country successfully put a spy satellite into orbit last night, and they're saying they will launch several more of these spy satellites within a short period of time to keep an eye on South Korea and the region of operational interest. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said, "We confirm that we have received photos of the U.S. Guam Air Base taken by this new spy satellite." So here's a picture of this spy satellite being launched. And here's a picture of Kim Jong-un standing in a control room where they're watching live images coming in from the satellite. Okay, look at this giant screen here. This reminds me of the GoldenEye video game. One of the levels there, you have to fight in this control room that looks like this with the big screen and shows where the GoldenEye satellite is. We have a volcano erupting in Papua New Guinea, and it caused evacuations and an airport closure. The eruption occurred on the remote island of New Britain, and the most recent eruption prior to this one occurred on June 26, 2019. And after it erupted, then it was upgraded to a major subplinian eruption with ash climbing to 19 kilometers, and over 5,000 people were evacuated. So this is a very serious volcano here. When it last erupted, the ash went 19 kilometers into the sky. And volcanoes in Papua New Guinea are some of the world's most prolific sources of sulfur dioxide. Recent studies have shown that the volcano on New Britain, the Ulawan, that's the name of the volcano that erupted, alone it releases 7 kilograms of SO2 per second, which is about 2% of the global total of SO2 emissions into the atmosphere. So that's sulfur dioxide. So this thing spews out a lot of sulfur. So it has a lot of soot and a lot of ash. And if this thing, intensifies, it could have some climate impacts. It could cause a volcanic winter. It could cause, temporary global cooling. And if you don't think this could happen, all you need to do is go back to the mid 90s and look up Mount Pinatubo, okay, which erupted in the Philippines, and it caused cooling for like almost a year after it erupted, okay? So this is the Ulawan volcano in Papua New Guinea, and it is identified as one of 16 volcanoes in the world being worthy of particular study in light of their history of large destructive eruptions. Okay, so this thing has the potential to be catastrophic. And I wanted to just update you guys on the volcano in Iceland. So, according to the Icelandic Meteorological Office, the likelihood remains high of an eruption within just days. Okay, so they're still saying that the likelihood of an eruption is high and it could be just days away. They're saying now that the magma chamber is only 800 meters below the surface. Last week, they were saying it was like 1,000 meters, so it rose 200 meters in a week about. So we have to keep an eye on this thing, guys. We got two major volcanoes right now to worry about, and I'll keep you updated on those. But things are really escalating in the Middle East and also in Eastern Europe. We have short-range ballistic missiles being used against U.S. forces, and it's just getting worse and worse. And the situation between Hezbollah and Israel is continuing to escalate. So I will update you guys later on this evening. So make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post these updates. And other than that, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.